Steps Hotel in Axmouth, now a respectable country club with manicured greens and clinking glasses, held a far darker reputation in its earlier days. Tucked into the rugged East Devon coast near the mouth of the River Axe, the building had once been a haven for smugglers-hardened men who slipped through the night with barrels of brandy and bolts of silk, their secrets etched into the hotel's very walls. By the mid-20th century, its illicit past had faded into local legend, but whispers of hauntings clung to Steps like sea mist, spoken in hushed tones by villagers who knew better than to linger after dusk. In 1955, a couple from the city would come to learn why. Margaret and Harold Ellis had chosen Steps Hotel for a quiet autumn getaway, drawn by its quaint charm and the promise of coastal walks. Newlyweds with a taste for adventure, they knew little of Axmouth's history and nothing of the hotel's shadowed reputation. The hotel itself was a handsome relic Georgian in style, with high ceilings and creaking floors, its windows offering glimpses of the estuary shimmering under the October moon. The staff were polite but reserved, their smiles tight as they showed the couple to a room on the second floor, a cozy space with a four-poster bed and a fireplace that hadn't been lit in years. "Mind the drafts," the porter had said, his voice clipped, before leaving them to settle in. The first night passed peacefully enough, though Margaret couldn't shake a vague unease as she drifted off, the distant crash of waves blending with the groans of the old building. It was the second night when the stillness shattered. Around 2 in the morning, she jolted awake, her heart pounding as a sound filled the room, a low, guttural moan rising into jagged, scraping noises, as if something heavy were being dragged across the floorboards above. It came from nowhere and everywhere, echoing through the walls, a cacophony of anguish that sent shivers down her spine. She clutched Harold's arm, but he slept on, undisturbed, his snores a stark contrast to the unearthly din. Margaret lay frozen, listening as the noises swelled and faded, a torment that lasted nearly an hour before silence reclaimed the night. By morning, she half convinced herself it had been a dream, though the memory lingered like a bruise. The following night, it was Harold's turn to hear the hotel's secrets. He woke with a start, the same awful noises clawing at the darkness, moans that turned to rasps, scrapes that turned to thuds, a symphony of misery that seemed to seep from the very bones of Steps Hotel. He sat bolt upright, fumbling for the bedside lamp, but its weak glow revealed nothing. No intruders, no fallen objects, just the empty room and Margaret's pale face beside him. "What in God's name is that?" he whispered, his voice trembling as the sounds grew louder, closer, as if something were pacing just beyond the door. Margaret, now awake, gripped his hand, her own terror mirrored in his wide eyes. They endured it together until the noises abruptly ceased, leaving only the faint whistle of the wind outside. At breakfast the next morning, their faces drawn and sleepless, the couple mentioned the disturbances to the hotel's manager, wiry man with a nervous habit of polishing his glasses. "Noises, you say?" he muttered, avoiding their gaze. "Old houses, you know, they creak and groan." But his hands shook as he poured their tea, and when pressed, he admitted what the Ellises hadn't known. Steps Hotel had long been reputed to be haunted. Its smuggling days, he explained, had left a stain tales of double crossings, hidden stashes, and desperate men who'd met violent ends in its cellars and attics. The staff had heard things too, though none would speak of it openly. "Best not to dwell," he added, forcing a smile. "You're leaving today, aren't you?" Margaret and Harold packed their bags with haste, the charm of Axmouth soured by the weight of those nocturnal horrors. They spoke little of it on the drive back to Bristol, but the memory lingered, the awful, unplaceable noises that had torn through the night, a reminder of Steps hotels shadowed past. The building may have shed its sinister reputation with time, its rooms now filled with the laughter of country club patrons. But for those who remembered its history, the echoes of smugglers and their restless deeds were never far off. And on quiet nights, when the wind blew just right, some swore they could still hear the moans drifting down from the old hotel's bones, as if the past refused to be forgotten. Many thanks for treading this tale's dark path. If its chill gripped you, like, follow, subscribe, and mama your secrets below.